Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Laketon Bethel. I'm of course not at Laketon Bethel this morning. I'm on vacation in Sioux Center, Iowa. I'm standing in a cornfield, and if you notice the size of the corn, it is knee-high by June 9, and not the 4th of July. So this is Iowa corn. It's a little different than perhaps Michigan corn. And the house I grew up in is directly in front of me. Behind me are a couple of hog barns. How many pigs are in there, Brian?
A couple thousand.
Couple thousand. You want to say hi to the folks in Michigan, Brian?
Hello.
This is my little brother, Brian. You have anything profound to say?
Well, I'd preach your sermon, but then they won't want to listen to you. So
That's true, yeah. So
I'll let you do your job.
all right, well, thank you much.
Yep.
And we are good to go. I wanted to show you those hog barns because I'm going to be referring to them later. The question I want to start off with today is, do you ever get a song stuck in your head that you can't seem to get rid of? You ever have a little ditty that plays and you can't seem to get rid of it? Now, one of my favorite TV shows is Modern Family, and I'm going to play you a 10-second clip of that show right now to show you I can't ever get this clip out of my head when it's on. So for the next 10 seconds, we're going to listen to that clip. Now see, I can't get that out of my head. And I've tried to figure out different ways to get music to stop playing. And I found that the best way to do that is to substitute another song. So now if I get a song stuck in my head, I listen to songs by Led Zeppelin, particularly off the 4th album, you know, their song Black Dog, or the Immigrant song from the 3rd album. Seems to flush out other music, because you can't have two songs playing in your head at the same time. That just doesn't work. Now, maybe you've gotten other things stuck in your head that you want to get rid of, but you can't. I know I have that every once in a while. It may be a fear, something that you are really afraid of. Some people, no matter how old they are afraid of the dark. Others of traffic, particularly high-speed traffic, like driving around the Chicago Loop or things like that. It's a little windy here today. Or, you know, it may be a fear of something not real, too. Some people fear flying, just don't like to fly at all. And some folks have a general fear of the future. Just have this feeling that something bad is going to happen to them. Their health is going to go, or they might run out of money, or something like that. It's a real fear. Today, I want us to entertain the thought that maybe we can replace the fear with faith. Just like if you get one song playing in your head, you can't get rid of it until you replace it with another song. So I just want you to think about whether you can replace the fears that you have in your head with faith. I want us to look at how negative thinking can be replaced not merely with positive thinking, but with gratitude, and see how that works. See, because it's my theory, and I think it's true, that fear can't occupy your soul when faith is present. You can't have the two together. Fear and faith don't like being in the same room together. And faith is stronger than fear. It drives fear out. And negative thinking can't occupy your mind when gratitude is present. You can't be overly negative and grateful at the same time. Like, it looks like it could rain here any minute. And if it does, I'll get wet. But I can't complain about the rain because look at this tremendous crop of corn that's coming up, and it needs moisture. So you can't be afraid of rain or thinking negatively about rain and be grateful for it at the same time. Today I want us to take a look at an old psalm, Psalm 27 from the Old Testament, because it talks about this exact thing. First verse says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. So why should I be afraid? The Lord is my fortress, protecting me from danger. So why should I tremble?" See, fear is illogical, is essentially what he's saying. Why should we have fear if the Lord is on our side? He is our light in our darkest times. He is our salvation. He is our fortress. He protects us from danger. Those are some pretty strong promises that have held true during my whole life. The passage goes on, "When my enemies and foes attack me, they will stumble and fall. Though a mighty army surrounds me, my heart will not be afraid. Even if I am attacked, I will remain confident." Now, I like these few verses because they acknowledge the fact that evil people exist. There are folks out there who want to take what you have, who want to hurt you to get it. They don't mind, and they'll do all kinds of nasty things. It's a fact that there are nasty people around, but God is not sleeping. And what this verse tells us, these verses tell us, is that these evil people eventually will get theirs. They will stumble and they will fall. He says, even when the odds are against you, your heart doesn't need to be afraid. Even if attacked, and you will be attacked by one thing or another, you can remain confident because of who is on your side. Now the psalm goes on like this. It says, "The one thing I ask of the Lord, the thing I seek most, is to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, delighting in the Lord's perfections and meditating in his temple." See, the psalmist who wrote this wants to have a close relationship with God. He wants to have this sense that God is with him all the time. And my response to that is, well, don't we all? We all want to have this closeness with God. But then why don't we? Well, that's a good question. Maybe it's because we're not looking for it the way we could. Maybe it's because we just aren't pulling for it as much as we could in all of our daily activities. The psalm goes on like this, verse 5, "For he will conceal me when the troubles come. He will hide me in his sanctuary. He will place me out of reach on a high rock. Then I will hold my head high above my enemies who surround me. At his sanctuary I will offer sacrifices with shouts of joy, singing and praising the Lord with music." Also what this means is that he's going to protect you. He's going to get you through whatever it is that you are going through. You know, all of these psalms were written kind of as prayers, and this one certainly is. He says in verse 7, "Hear me as I pray, O Lord. Be merciful and answer me. My heart has heard you say, 'Come and talk with me.' And my heart responds, 'Lord, I am coming.'" Maybe the reason you're hearing this video this morning, maybe the reason you're here this morning, is that the Lord is saying to you, "Come and talk with me." Because he is saying that. He wants you to come and talk with him. Tell him everything that's on your mind. He can handle it. So, as the psalmist said, when he sensed the Lord was saying, "Come and talk with me," his response was, "Lord, I'm coming." Perhaps that should be my response and yours. He goes on with this. "Do not turn your back on me. Do not reject your servant in anger. You've always been my helper. Don't leave me now. Don't abandon me, O God of my salvation." See, this guy has some fears. He knows they're there. He's afraid that God might reject him, that his fortunes might turn. He knows what it's like to feel abandoned by God. He knows what it feels like to have to fight a battle on his own. He's experienced rejection by family and friends. And then this all-important verse 10 that comes up next. He says, even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close. See, the Lord doesn't abandon us. We abandon him. And this verse meant a lot to me in my late teens while I was growing up right here, right in this spot. Because I was fighting with my parents a lot, and I don't even remember the occasion when I looked this verse up. Somebody showed it to me or what it was, but it meant a lot because I was having a hard time with my parents at the time. Don't remember what particular argument we were having, but in general, my parents were trying to raise me to be like Ronald Reagan, and I was always turning out more like Keith Richards. It was just the way things were. But I felt terrible. I felt like my parents were against me. And this verse brought me a great deal of comfort all those years ago when I was a teenager. And the psalm goes on like this. It says, teach me how to live, O Lord. Lead me along the right path, for my enemies are waiting for me. Do not let me fall into their hands, for they accuse me of things I've never done. With every breath, they threaten me with violence. So he's saying, teach me how to live, Lord. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. As you all know, those of you who've been listening to me regularly or been attending the worship services here, I think a lot of our prayers need to start off with, Lord, here I am, I'm reporting for duty. Let me know what it is you want me to do. Just like someone who has a government job or whatever, who's under marching orders. You show up and say, Lord, I'm here reporting for duty. What is it you have for me? And when you do that, you're still going to have accusers. You're still going to have people who want to control you or people who are jealous of you. But don't fall for that. The Lord has a specific purpose for your life. And when you find it, it's great to follow. He says this next. Yet I'm confident that I will see the Lord's goodness while I'm here in the land of the living. See, the promise of God is not just for the next life. It's not just for what happens after we leave this world. You'll see his goodness in this life too, in the land of the living. So he concludes by saying this, wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous. Yes, wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave, be courageous, be patient. And the Lord wouldn't ask this of us if it wasn't possible. It is a choice that we can make. And when we make it, our lives are much better. So the main thing that I wanted to show you today from this passage and from years of life experience is that faith and fear cannot coexist. Something full of fear gets emptied out when faith comes in. Behind me you see these two large hog barns. When I was a kid, those barns weren't there. There was an old schoolhouse there, the schoolhouse that my dad actually attended from first grade through 8th grade. Now what happened was they consolidated, they put the public schools in town, and the building went up for sale, and my dad bought it. Now he was able to convert that schoolhouse into a grain bin. As you can see, he produced lots of corn. My brother's still producing lots of corn. So that schoolhouse became a corn bin, a corn storage facility. And in the basement of it, there was a series of augers that would take the corn out, load it into corn wagons, and take it away to be sold or to be used as animal feed. Now the problem with that is that rats really like corn. So rats moved into the basement of that old schoolhouse by that auger system. And there were old desks and windows and whatnot in there from when they remodeled it, made it into a grain bin. So We had lots of rats down there. And you could walk down there and the rats would kind of scatter for a while, and if you stood still, it didn't take but a few minutes for the rats to come out and start checking you out again. Now, what I would do as a kid, you can't see them right now, but there's several Rottweiler puppies directly in front of me. I would go down there with a couple of adult Rottweilers or a couple of other adult dogs and just watch what happened. Because those dogs would see the rats and they'd go after them. They were tremendous hunters of rats. And guess what happened? When the dogs came down the basement, the rats left. You couldn't have the dogs and the rats in the same room. The dogs chased the rats out. As corny, of an illustration that is, it illustrates a significant spiritual truth. The truth of the matter is that your faith will drive your fear out, just like those dogs drove the rats out. Faith works that way. So, when you're feeling attacked, remember the Lord is your fortress. Remembering that and having that faith will drive your fears away. When you're overwhelmed with fear or anxiety, it could be that the Lord is saying to you, come and talk with me. Do it and your fear and anxiety will be heading for the door. I have a ton of personal experience with this. Just in recent years, with the COVID pandemic, trying to keep a church together, trying to do all these things, and I became afraid that there was no future for the church, there was no future for the faith, that it was all going to go away because of COVID. The numbers were slashed, all those things, and I got really discouraged and really afraid. And I wondered about this verse. I reread it about a year ago, and it said, come and talk with me. So I did. And it's like the Lord said to me, you know, when you're done whining, I still have work for you to do. I still have this responsibility for you called Laketon Bethel. You still need to take care of that. I need somebody to do that, and you're the one I've chosen. So do it. Stop whining. Stop being afraid. Use your faith. And it's so interesting because when I focus on faith, the fears just run away. I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes and flies here. The thing is, fear flees when faith enters. And then you'll see the goodness of the Lord because your fears are going to be gone or greatly reduced. I think what this passage tells us is to wait patiently for Him and the rats will run. They don't want to be in the same room. Now, fear is part of life. We all have it, and to say that you can get rid of it completely is just wishful thinking. The person with the most stalwart faith is still going to have some fear, but you can greatly reduce it. The Lord will not reject you. He will help you drive the rats out of your basement. You can replace the sad song that's playing in your head with a song of joy. And you can do this very easily. You replace the fear with faith. You replace the negative attitudes with gratitude. And it's really quite simple to do. It takes some practice, and I haven't mastered it yet. But I found that every time I apply it, it actually works. And so I know it'll work for you too. If you got a lot of fear, trust in the Lord, turn to Him, talk to Him a while, and the rats eventually leave. Do all this, and remember, this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. You can see by looking around you at my background here that growing up around here, it's impossible to not be a believer, because you see the Lord's action in producing the grain from the earth and the meat from the animals as his way of providing for us. We know that he's here. We know that this is his day. Let's remember it's his day, place faith in him, and the rats will leave the basement. Well, this concludes this particular crosstalk. I am live from Sioux Center, Iowa by video. As always, thanks for listening.